Hey everyone, Prof G here, and thank you for joining us on this video about the patient encounter practical exam tips for success. And this is the final episode in our series of videos that we've been doing on the patient encounter practical examination. So if you want to hear some tips and tricks on how to succeed, stay tuned for this video. Welcome back to the Patient Encounter Physical Exam series. I'm your host, Prof G, and I just want to say congratulations on making it to the final episode of this series. You've put in the work and each section of the physical exam, and now it's time to bring it all together. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about tips and tricks for your success on your physical exam practical. And this is going to cover things from managing anxiety to organizing your space and pacing yourself and finishing strong. So let's get ready to walk into that practical with confidence and know that you have got this. First of all, let's look at an overview of what we're going to be covering. We're going to be looking at managing anxiety. We're going to look at bedside table setup, time management, final self-check tips, some practical wisdom, and final advice. All right, so the first section we're going to talk about is managing anxiety and building confidence. So let's start with the most common concern that I hear from students, and that is nerves. So it's completely normal to feel anxious before your practical exam. Everyone does. I mean, even your professors did, like me, when I was in your shoes. And even on practical day, your professors are going to be, worried about you succeeding, not worried that you're not going to perform well, just, we want you to perform as best as you possibly can. And it's completely normal to feel anxious. So, here are a few ways to help calm those nerves. Well, you need to practice in real time. So, find a classmate, a family member, and you need to run through this entire exam head to toe with a timer. And the more you simulate the real exam, the less intimidating it will become. Next, you need to talk through it out loud. So say what you're doing as you go, and this kind of helps, maintain and cement your flow, and it gives you a confidence so that when it's time to perform in front of a grader, you're just doing your routine, okay? Next, you need to look at visualization. So visualization, it works. Before the big day, you want to visualize yourself walking into the room, greeting the patient, and performing each part of the exam smoothly. You can even kind of run through it in front of a mirror and see how you perform and how you look when you're performing. Last up, we need to breathe. Seriously, you need to breathe. Take a moment before you start your exam. You need to take some deep breaths and remind yourself, I've got this. I've prepared for this. In just a second, I will show you a video of a live demonstration showing how I would set up the bedside table, and this is for efficiency and ease of use. Make sure that you check that out. However, keep in mind that each table and the way that you set it up has to work for you. So the idea here is organization equals confidence. So a few tips: keep your tools in a logical group based on the body system or the flow of your practical exam. Items like your tuning fork, your reflex hammer, pen light, cotton balls, gloves, all this should be ready and visible on your table. You don't want to waste time digging through like your white coat, trying to find something. You want to have your table prepped, the same setup every single time you practice and the time for your practical. And that way you know how to flow through the organization of the items on your bedside table. The more consistent your setup is, the less mental energy you'll waste during the exam. All right, so now we're going to go through how to set up your table, your bedside table. I think this is a really important part of preparing for your practical exam. So usually what I would recommend doing is going through the rubric and kind of mapping out your exam from start to finish, and then setting it up from left to right, just like it's set up here, with things you're going to use first all the way to things that you're going to use at the end. So I usually tend to wear my stethoscope around my neck, so if that's something that you do, you can remove this from here. Also, when you first come in the room, there'll probably be a bottle of hand sanitizer set up for you. Don't forget to wash your hands at the beginning, so I always set that up right here so that you are reminded that you need to do that. Then we move on to vital signs and a few other things. We have the eye exam. Don't forget, when you're done with the eye exam, you need to switch this out to the ear exam one. We have also for the hearing, we have this to remind us about the mouth. Oh, don't forget about your nose, your mouth. The one that doesn't have a reminder here is the neck. So how you can remind yourself a little bit about that is if you make it all the way to JVD and you haven't checked the neck, like the neck and the lymph nodes, this would be a good kind of after the fact reminder. And then in between here, we have the musculoskeletal exam, right? So there's no real indicator for that either. We have the sensation, our reflex hammer, our other tuning fork for vibration, and then our two objects in here. One other thing, as you notice here, the Snellen chart, you would have one or the other here. You notice how it's kind of off the edge on the table. I think that's also kind of a pro tip because if you keep it on the table itself, it's actually really hard sometimes to get it off the table. So if you have it kind of on the lip, it's easier to grab, and so you're not losing valuable time doing that. Same thing with your ruler. Oh, also, attire. So for your practical exam, you're allowed to wear either scrubs or professional dress. It's totally up to you. You have to wear your white coat. I wouldn't leave any of this in your white coat for the practical exam. Like some students would carry this in their coat pocket. The only thing that I would put is maybe your stethoscope if you don't like wearing it around your neck. But I just make it easier for you to kind of grab things. Another thing is wear comfortable shoes. Even if you're going to dress professionally, make sure that your shoes are comfortable because you're going to be squatting and standing for 45 minutes straight at least. So you definitely don't want to wear anything like heels that you're going to have trouble squatting or standing with. My recommendation, go for scrubs and wear comfy tennis shoes. All right, so that is kind of the little setup, and let's go on to the next section. Okay, so one other thing I forgot to mention is the drape. So usually it's just going to be sitting there. The patient will be wearing their gown, but the drape will be kind of sitting there. So you can either kind of make room for it, or maybe when you put your stethoscope on, you can place it here, or you can place it to the side of the patient by the bed. But don't forget your drape when we get to, usually in the abdominal or cardio exam is when we need this. So just don't forget about this. Yeah, I think that's it. Next, let's look at time management and pacing. So you have 45 minutes to complete your exam, and that's plenty of time, but you need to stay steady. Remember, any items that are left outstanding after those 45 minutes, you cannot finish. And you need a minimum of an 80 on the examination to pass. And you will have two attempts to pass. If you don't pass, well, let's not talk about that. We're all going to pass this exam. You'll have You won't be allowed to write down anything on this practical, no skeleton checklist, no cheat sheets, but you can mentally prepare by reviewing the order of your exam right before you begin. Stick with the same order you've practiced. Now is not the time to try something new or to change your flow. And try not to rush. I know when we get in there, we got our adrenaline pumping and we have a set time limit. Our thought is just, oh, I gotta get through it really fast. Don't rush, but don't get stuck either. You want to keep your pace consistent. And if something isn't working, like let's say you just can't feel a popliteal pulse or you can't get a certain reflex, don't waste 3 to 5 minutes trying to get it. Just say, I'm doing this, try it a couple times and move on. We understand as instructors that you are under pressure while you are being observed one on one. And one missed reflex doesn't define your skills, the big picture does. All right, now let's look at some of our final self checks as we're finishing up our practical. If you finish early or you have a few minutes left in your practical exam, don't just stop and say, I'm done. Okay, use that time wisely. Here's some things that you can do during those last few minutes. One, you can mentally run through the rubric page by page. And what did you just complete? Did you forget any of the exam components? You can also visualize the flow. Did you inspect, palpate, auscultate for each system? Another key tip is to look at your bedside table. If a tool is unused, that might be a hint that you skipped a section. These little check ins can help you catch missed steps and earn those crucial points back. Don't worry if you didn't complete them in any certain order. As long as you complete them within the 45 minutes, you should receive credit. All right, now let's look at some practical wisdom, pun intended. So, here are a few pearls that I want you to keep in mind. One, this is not the time to obsess over technique. If you can't get the reflex or feel the pulse, I'm not going to tell you to fake it, but you need to move on because time is of the essence here. And you can just say what you're doing and just keep moving forward. Okay. Don't panic if you blink. Just breathe. If you get stuck on something, you can skip ahead a little bit. And once your adrenaline kind of slows down a little and you're breathing and you're in the flow, you can always circle back to complete items that you might have missed at the beginning while nerves were kind of on high. Okay. Next up, if you forget a medical term, and say you can't remember stereognosis, which some of us can't remember that. I still have trouble with that. Just describe what you're doing, okay? If your grader is looking for technique, they're not looking for vocabulary points, okay? Be professional, okay? Maintain eye contact and explain your steps. Speak clearly. You want to treat your simulated patient like they are one of your actual patients. And one other thing to note is that this exam is not about perfection, it's about consistency, confidence, and safety. All right, so some final words of encouragement from us to your lab instructors is you've worked hard to get here, okay? You have studied every inch of this exam. You've been practicing at all hours of the day and night with your friends, with your family members, and you've put in the work. So now is the time to show us what you know. Okay, just remember, stick to your routine, stay calm, as hard as that can be. I know when someone tells me to relax, it kind of makes me more anxious, but do your best. Keep moving forward, keep progressing forward as you're going through this exam. And most of all, trust yourself, okay? We are rooting for you. We're your cheerleaders, your coaches, and we cannot wait to see you succeed. All right, so I want to take this opportunity to thank you for tuning in for this long series of videos and this video specifically. If this series helped you out, please like, comment, subscribe, support the channel, and get notified about future episodes. And don't forget to check out the Pro PA podcast for more pants prep pearls, some clinical tips, and motivation. You can check that out in the description below. So this has been Prof G. I'm wishing you the very, very best on your physical exam, practical. You've got this, okay? Believe in yourself. We believe in you. And I will catch you in the next video.